In the past, we spoke a lot about conscious thinking. Which is different than to be aware of thoughts. It is not like mindfulness of thoughts. It is to be conscious in thoughts themselves, as they occur. Each thought is conscious of itself. And the same principle should be transferred to emotions. We need to be conscious not just of our emotions, but conscious in emotions. Commonly, there is no consciousness in emotions whatsoever. Sometimes there is a little bit consciousness which is more on the side of the subconscious, meaning that one is subconsciously aware of one's emotions as they occur. Emotions are experienced not only in the emotional centers in the body, heart and solar plexus mainly, but also in the head space. The person is processing a lot of emotions. And this occurs especially in interactions with others. Because the person is the active center behind these interactions, the heart is not interacting. Heart is interacting, but only via person. Without the person, the heart would not know that there is actually an outer world out there. Heart doesn't have eyes, ears, cannot think. So before we attempt to purify ego, we need to actually be conscious. Conscious emotional awareness. Has to be there. To be conscious in emotions is actually more challenging than to be conscious in thoughts. Emotions are more primal. More ingrained in our experience of ourselves. These emotions which you experience in the head are subtle thoughts which carry emotional charge. it doesn't really feel like you are thinking, because these are not really thinking thoughts, just thoughts that carry with themselves that energy of emotion. And because they are so primary, they are experienced beneath the level of consciousness. This is why it's important to make them conscious. Somehow to elevate them to the level of consciousness. These thoughts, emotions, are most often connected to different emotional patterns. Such as, for instance, you have a sense of insecurity when talking to another person, emotional insecurity, or lack of confidence. And in order to recognize it, you need to self-reflect. Self-reflection is not the same as to be conscious in emotion. It's the next level of your relationship with emotion. You don't want to be self-reflecting all the time, but now and then it's good to know why am I experiencing that particular emotion? And then you can go deeper. What is the root of it? And then you may want to initiate the healing process. Because the root of it may be coming from your past, it's not from the present. Wanting to please is another pattern. People are constantly trying to please each other, not necessarily from the place of really loving the other person. It's more psychological, to gain acceptance, appreciation, to receive love, some kind of a positive energy from another person, positive feedback. So there's certain type of emotional negotiation that is constantly happening in those human interactions. one of the things to watch for is that insecurity, this uncertainty about oneself. Which causes you to hide yourself inside that, your emotional self, or to respond or interact from the place of certain disconnection or isolation. So there's always this separation underlying connection to another human. If you are very comfortable with someone and you trust, you're fully opened, then you may not notice these things because you are interacting from a place without fear. If you interact with a dog, your dog, your pet, there's not much emotions going on because the dog is not projecting on you anything. You are not projecting anything on the dog, and you are not emotionally afraid. So emotionally you feel very comfortable. But human beings are more complex, obviously. So it's a lot of going on. So the first step is to become emotionally conscious. You are conscious both in your head and in your emotional centers. You need to feel what is happening in your heart, for instance, or in your solar plexus. If you get afraid, insecure, usually solar plexus is triggered. And you need to be conscious in the head. Next, very gently reflecting. Why am I feeling like that? Why I am Why am I so insecure? Why am I so self-conscious? One of the strategies here is to close down or to disconnect somehow block your vulnerability so you don't get hurt. Which is obviously not a solution. Instead, you would want to open up to your vulnerability while at the same time renouncing or relaxing that mechanism of self-protection. Relaxing your defenses. Since these emotional patterns often are very deep, so you might also want to relax in your heart and in your solar plexus. Perhaps even breathing to these areas, so that underlying emotions are pacified. We may think that opening vulnerability makes you susceptible to getting hurt. This is so, but only at the very basic level of vulnerability. If your vulnerability is opened 100%, you actually cannot get hurt. Opening vulnerability 100%, in a way, you transcend vulnerability. You move to another place within yourself. Certain place of profound emotional and psychological surrender. So opening to vulnerability while relaxing or letting go of self-protection, self-consciousness, excessive self-reference, because minimum is okay. Letting go of emotional negotiations. It's not an emotional business deal that you are doing with another person. It is a connection between two human beings that are both manifestations of God. And then gradually you come to experience emotional transparency. There's all these emotional reactions, diminish and disappear. Now and then you can still experience emotions because, well, that is the nature of human connections and interactions and exchange. But majority of time you will experience pure feeling. Feeling is higher than emotions. You can say emotions are lower frequency feelings. Lower vibration feelings. You may want to experiment with all of that because it's very interesting and very important. It's not easy because these emotional patterns are very deep in the human psyche. In a way, you are made like that when coming from the collective consciousness. But gradually you can unmade yourself or unmake yourself. Being conscious in your emotions is the first step. Gentle self-reflection is second. If you need more healing, you need to go into healing. You need to dissolve the root emotions, the hurts, the wounds, which are sabotaging your healthy emotional responses, making them exaggerated, excessive, irrational. But it is not necessarily a linear process. It's not like you have to fully heal in order to work with your mind or the emotions in your mind. In fact, working with emotions in your mind gently will help your healing process as well. Because by getting in touch with these emotions in the mind, these emotional patterns, you will also be able to get in touch with the corresponding emotions in your heart and solar plexus. Regarding being conscious, emotionally conscious, as we said, it's similar like conscious thinking, but not same, it's different. You need to be consciously one with emotion in your mind while you are experiencing it. So you are not conscious of the emotion, you are conscious in the emotion. And there's something very meditative about that. Something quite profound, in fact. You can be unconscious, you can experience your emotions subconsciously, or you can be conscious. You need to identify which one is which, or which one you are experiencing. Sometimes maybe completely unconscious. You have no idea that you are actually having that emotion. It is entirely mechanical. Sometimes there's a little bit consciousness in emotion, but it's still yet not conscious. Or sometimes you become conscious of the emotion in delay. It can be split of a second that you are aware of experiencing it. But the real meaning of being conscious in emotion is that in the moment that it occurs, as it occurs. An emotion is not like a thought, it comes and it goes. It has certain continuity. So our general goal is to reach emotional transparency, to eliminate reactive mind, to somehow transcend emotional negotiations with other people, to become simply more pure and more real, and to minimize emotional processing while replacing it with true feeling, love, empathy, compassion, care. And as we said, there's a strength in vulnerability when you allow yourself to be 100% vulnerable. It's something that you should try, because it will also allow you to undo, to transform that mechanism of self-protection and self-defensiveness, which is very much ingrained in the human psyche.